It started with a twitch in my arm. Nothing serious. Barely noticeable. A muscle spasm just above the elbow, annoying but harmless. I'd had them before. Too much caffeine, not enough sleep, maybe stress. I wrote it off. That was 3 weeks ago. Now I'm writing this with one arm completely wrapped in bandages and a second heartbeat pounding behind my ear like it's trying to crawl into my skull. I'm not prone to panic. I'm an analyst, data first, emotion second. But when something inside your body starts moving like it doesn't belong, it gets hard to be objective. The twitching got worse by the second day. Stronger. Rhythmic. It wasn't random anymore. It pulsed. A steady thump, thump, thump. Like a heartbeat. I thought maybe I was imagining it. I held my left wrist with my right hand, feeling for the familiar pulse point. But my heart was still beating normally in my chest, slow, steady. And this other beat? It was out of sync. I went to urgent care on day 4. The nurse checked my vitals. Heart rate's normal, she said. I know, I told her. But it's not in my chest. She blinked. Where do you feel it? I lifted my shirt sleeve. My upper arm. Like something's alive in there. She gave me that tight, polite smile that health professionals use when they start mentally writing the psych consult. They took blood. Scheduled an ultrasound just in case. Sent me home with a muscle relaxant. It didn't help. If anything, it made the pulse sharper. Stronger. Like it was mocking me for trying to sedate it. By the end of the week, I stopped sleeping. Every time I drifted off, I woke up to the sensation of movement in my limbs, not twitching anymore, but shifting. Like something repositioning itself. It began spreading. By day 9, I could feel the pulse behind my knee. By day 11, in my left ankle. Then, most disturbingly, behind my right ear. Not inside my head. Not a headache. Beneath the skin. Thump, thump, thump. Slower than my heartbeat. Deeper. I stopped calling the clinic. They weren't helping. Worse, they started sounding nervous to hear from me. I heard it in the nurse's voice. We don't have anything abnormal in your blood work. I'm not sure why the imaging didn't detect anything. Try not to fixate on it. I wasn't fixating. I was listening. There was something in me. And it was getting louder. I tried recording it. Used my phone, placed it directly over my forearm where the pulse was strongest. Played it back. At first, nothing but static. Then, just at the edge of hearing a sound like whispering. Not words. Just shape. A low vibration like someone humming under their breath while standing inches from your neck. I boosted the gain in an audio editing app. That's when I heard it. 2 separate heartbeats. The louder one was mine, fast, elevated. The second one? Slower. Too slow to be human. A kind of dragging, deliberate beat. Like something hibernating. Something waiting. On day 13, the skin on my arm began to discolor. Faintly at first, a bruise-like tint that spread in an irregular shape, like ink bleeding into tissue paper. It wasn't sore. It wasn't even tender. Just warm. And underneath it, the beat continued. Steady. Proud. And now in time with my breathing. Not my pulse. My breath. Inhale, thump. Exhale, thump. Like it was learning me. Sinking. That night, I fell asleep on the couch. When I woke up, there was blood on my sleeve. Not a lot, but enough. I ran to the bathroom and peeled back the fabric. There was a pinprick wound on my arm. Small. Surgical. Almost like an incision that had healed from the inside out. Around it, the skin was hot. I touched it and felt the beat push back. I lost it. Started digging through drawers, pulling out old pill bottles, razors, scissors. Anything sharp. Something in me screamed to cut it out. But the moment the blade touched my skin, the pulse jumped. Not in fear and warning. My vision blurred. I heard a sudden, loud ringing in my ears. The world tilted. And then a third heartbeat. This one didn't come from inside. It came from behind me. I turned. No one there. But the lights flickered. And in the moment of darkness, I saw something. A silhouette. Tall. Lean. Wrong. Standing at the edge of the kitchen. Gone when the lights came back. But not forgotten. The next morning, my apartment smelled like copper and ozone. Like metal left in the sun too long. The kind of smell you get in an operating room, sterile, hot, expectant. My skin itched. I lifted my shirt. And there, just above my left hip, was another bruise. Perfectly circular. Faint heartbeat beneath it. Now it was growing faster. I called my friend Ava. She's a nurse. Practical. No nonsense. I didn't give her the full truth, just said I was feeling weird, needed someone to check in. She came by an hour later. We made coffee. Saturday. Talked. When I finally showed her my arm, she paused. Not with concern. With confusion. Where's your vein? She asked. What? Here. She pointed to the crook of my elbow. You've got no visible vein. None. She pressed her fingers along the skin. It's like they shifted. Then she touched the spot where the beat was strongest and jerked her hand away. Did you feel that? I asked. She nodded. I don't like that. Her voice was quiet now. Flat. Feel what? I pushed. She didn't answer. She just stood up. Slowly. Eyes on my arm. Then she said, I think you should come with me. But I didn't move. Because something was wrong with her face. Her eyes weren't dilating. Not at all. And when she smiled, I saw the inside of her cheek pulse. Ava's smile didn't reach her eyes. It stretched too far. The kind of smile you use when you're trying to calm a skittish animal or hide the fact that you're not really you anymore. I think you should come with me, she said again. But her voice was different this time. Flat. Not robotic, worse. Practiced. Like she was repeating a line someone had told her to memorize but didn't understand. I stepped back. Ava, I said slowly, what did you feel? When you touched me. When your fingers met the beat. She didn't answer. She just blinked. Slow. And the corner of her mouth twitched once. Then again. Like a glitch. Then she turned too fast and walked toward the door. I'll bring help, she said over her shoulder. But her gait was wrong. Too smooth. Her feet didn't lift like they should. She was gliding. No bounce. No pulse. The moment she left, the air changed. Heavier. Charged. I staggered to the bathroom. Looked at myself in the mirror. Something new had appeared just below my collarbone. Another circular discoloration. Dark, with faint veins radiating outward in perfect symmetry like a flower. Or a circuit board. I pressed it. It was warm. Then hot. Then it pulsed. And I realized I couldn't feel my heart in my chest anymore. At all. I grabbed my stethoscope from under the sink. I bought it online years ago during a hypochondria phase I never outgrew. Put it to my chest. Nothing. Not silence. Just absence. Like my body had forgotten that part existed. Then I moved it to my arm. And the sound that came through nearly made me vomit. Not just a heartbeat. A chorus. 4, maybe 5 separate beats. Layered. Too slow. Too deep. All just slightly out of sync. I dropped the stethoscope. Backed away from the mirror. Then noticed something behind me. In the reflection just over my shoulder. A shape. Not moving. Not quite visible. Just an impression in the steam of the glass, like a presence too subtle to be seen, but too real to ignore. I turned. Nothing there. But my arm twitched. Hard. Then again. Rhythmic. Urgent. It wasn't random anymore. It was tapping. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. I sat on the floor and put my hand on the tile. My fingers twitched in response. Like they were being controlled. Like the rhythm was running backward from my arm to my brain. My phone buzzed. A text from Ava. Don't let them finish the sync. I saw it too late. Before I could respond, another message arrived from the same number. Disregard previous message. Patient is exhibiting paranoia and dissociation. Please remain still. I stared at the screen. Felt my pulse in my wrist shift again. Now it was tapping faster. Not just rhythm. Pattern. I recorded it. Typed out the intervals like Morse code. Ran it through a translator app. The message came back garbled, but one phrase was readable. Eject skin. I laughed. Loud. Panicked. Because what else could I do? My body wasn't mine anymore. My heart was gone. Relocated. Replaced. Repurposed. And now something inside me was asking me to eject skin. I sat for hours. Tried to think. Tried to breathe. But every time I inhaled, the pulse behind my ears responded. Like it was breathing with me. Or for me. Around midnight, I looked at my shoulder in the mirror. One of the circular marks had opened. A slit. Thin. Red. Moist. And inside, I swear to God, I saw something move. Just for a second. Like a finger pushing outward from the other side of the skin. I didn't scream. Couldn't. The sound got caught in my throat. Then something strange happened. The mirror rippled. Not like a trick of the eye. It wavered like heat off asphalt, and for just a moment, I saw the reflection change. It was still me. But older. Sunken eyes. Pale. Veins like wires under his skin. And he leaned toward the mirror and whispered. The pulse is the password. Don't let them finish the install. I stumbled back. The mirror went solid again. Back to my current self. Or what was left of me. I ran to my laptop. Opened every medical record I had access to. Blood work. Scans. Notes. In one PDF from my recent ultrasound appointment, there was a section I'd overlooked. Unidentified vascular activity detected, data omitted by request. By request.
I hadn't requested anything. And below that, in faded gray text, transferred to internal study, case file number 13 HEARTWY. I googled it. Nothing. DuckDuckGo. Still nothing. Then one Reddit thread archived. Title: Hardway install, anyone else feel their pulse in the wrong place? The post was short, cryptic, started in my arm, spread to my jaw, stopped feeling pain around day 12. Mirror glitches on day 15. Please don't touch the circle under your ear. All replies were deleted. Except one. Too late. You're just scaffolding now. I closed the laptop, stood in the silence. I could hear it clearly now. The beat was everywhere. In the floors, in the walls, in the air. I was just hosting it. Like my body was never really mine. Just rented space. A prototype. A frame. And now the new occupant was moving in. I lay down, closed my eyes, tried to feel my chest. Nothing. But behind my knees? Strong. Behind my ears? Faster now. And just as I was drifting, the pulse in my right arm stopped. Dead quiet. For 10 seconds. Then one final thump. And my fingers twitched on their own. Tapped out a rhythm on the floor. Not random. A phrase. Clear. Direct. We are awake now. When I woke up, I wasn't on the floor anymore. I was in bed. But I hadn't moved myself there. I was sure of that. The covers were perfectly tucked. The lights were off. My phone was charging, though I remembered throwing it across the room the night before. Everything was arranged just the way I used to do it, down to the cup of water beside my nightstand. Except I hadn't done it. I couldn't have, because my left arm didn't respond anymore. Not numb, not paralyzed, just absent. It moved, but not when I wanted it to. It twitched sometimes on its own, fingers flexing like they were listening to someone else's command. The heartbeat in the shoulder was louder now. Not just a pulse, a throb pressing out against the skin like something expanding beneath the surface. I could see it now, rising, falling, and the skin around it was beginning to change color, taking on a translucent quality like parchment soaked in oil. When I held it up to the light, I saw something underneath. Lines, not veins. Too straight, too precise. I taped a GoPro to my wall and recorded myself for an hour. Didn't move the whole time. Watched the footage afterward. For the first 40 minutes, I sat motionless. Then, at exactly 43:12, my head turned sharply to the left. My lips moved. No sound. Just a murmur. Then I smiled. Not the kind of smile I'd ever make. Too wide. Too deliberate. Like I was wearing my own face. I played it back in slow motion. Watched frame by frame. Right before my head turned, the skin on my jaw trembled. Like something shifting position inside. Like a person rearranging themselves beneath a bedsheet. I needed help. Real help. I went to a neurologist downtown, someone I hadn't seen before, someone unconnected to my records. Told her I was experiencing strange sensory symptoms. Kept it vague. She ran a few physical exams. Checked my reflexes. My pupils. My pulse. Then she frowned. I'm not detecting a heartbeat in your chest. My throat tightened. She moved the stethoscope again. Frowned deeper. Wait. I'm picking something up in your upper thigh. She pressed again. Tilted her head. Then leaned back. Her voice was cautious now. You're compensating with an alternative vascular structure. I blinked. What does that mean? She hesitated. I don't know. She ordered an emergency CT scan. Got me in within hours. I lay on the table, machine humming above me, lights flickering. Halfway through, the technician stopped. Said nothing. Just left the room. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, someone else entered, older man, stiff posture, no name tag. He didn't introduce himself. Just asked. Has the pressure in your skull changed in the last 48 hours? I didn't answer right away. He repeated the question firmer. Have you felt rhythmic pressure behind the eyes? Or in the auditory canal? I nodded slowly. His expression didn't change. Then he showed me one of the scans. Pointed at a region near the brainstem. There's something growing here, he said. Not a tumor. It's symmetrical. Engineered. That word hit me like a slap. Engineered. Engineered by who? I asked. He looked at me flatly. You mean engineered by what? He didn't explain further. Just walked out. 5 minutes later, I was discharged. No paperwork. No answers. The receptionist wouldn't even look me in the eye. That night, Ava came back. But it wasn't really Ava anymore. She didn't knock. Just opened the door. Walked in. Sat on the couch like it was hers. Her head tilted as she looked at me, not with concern, but curiosity. Like I was a specimen. A live one. I stayed frozen. She raised her hand, pointed to my shoulder. You're almost through the onboarding. I didn't respond. My chest was tight. My fingers twitched involuntarily. Do you know what you're becoming? She asked softly. What is this? I choked out. What's happening to me? Ava smiled, but it wasn't hers. Something else was behind it. You're being formatted, she said. Like we all were. Then she stood, walked toward the hallway mirror, and for the first time I noticed it was different. Taller, narrower. The reflection didn't match her posture exactly. It was a few seconds off, lagging, glitching, and behind her, in the mirror only, I saw me. Eyes completely black, smiling back. She turned. You'll see him soon, she whispered. The one who first moved the heart. Then she left. Didn't close the door. Didn't look back. And as I stood alone in the apartment, I felt the center of gravity in my body shift. Like my internal compass was being rewritten. Like the concept of up and down was starting to bend. And in that moment, I understood something horrifying. My body was no longer mine. I was just the shell. That night, I recorded my sleep again. When I checked the footage the next morning, I almost dropped the camera. At 3:13 a.m., the exact minute from the night before, I sat bolt upright. My eyes opened, mouth closed. I didn't speak, but I knocked. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. Then I turned toward the camera and smiled, held up my left hand, and tapped a message into the BEF frame. The install has begun. I woke up with tears in my eyes, but I hadn't been crying. Not from sadness, not from pain. It was like my body had processed an emotion I never experienced, an emotion that didn't belong to me. I lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling, heart still silent in my chest. But my ankle was thudding, my thigh pulsing, my neck vibrating with some slow internal rhythm that didn't align with anything I'd ever known as human. And in my head, a memory. Except it wasn't mine. I was walking through a forest I'd never seen. At night, barefoot, the air thick and warm and wrong. There were lights ahead, orange, like a fire, but no heat. And behind me, a sound low, resonant, like someone banging a hand on wetwood. Thump, thump, pause, thump. And over it, a voice. Familiar. Not mine, not Ava's. But I knew it. Saying, it always starts with one beat. Then it listens. Then it copies. I sat up fast. That same rhythm immediately fired in my spine. Not painful, but authoritative. Like it was reminding me I no longer moved without its approval. I went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and gasped. My left eye had changed. Just slightly. The iris was darker. Not just in color and texture. The lines had shifted. They no longer radiated from the pupil. They spiraled. Tiny, almost invisible curls that rotated inward. I blinked rapidly. Splashed water on my face. Looked again. Still there. No irritation. No redness. But the eye felt deeper. Like there was more behind it than space and retina. Like something was watching me back. I left the apartment for the first time in days. The street outside felt off, the wind too still, the air too flat. No birds. No dogs barking. And everyone I passed on the sidewalk moved in the same pattern, steady, smooth, just off enough to trigger a deep unease. Every third person looked at me. Not long. Just long enough to make eye contact. Then looked away. Like they'd received confirmation. At a crosswalk, a man bumped into me. Didn't apologize. Didn't even flinch. But when I turned to look at him, he mouthed something. You're sinking. Then he walked on. I ducked into a pharmacy. Grabbed a box of bandages, rubbing alcohol, cotton pads, anything to try to examine myself without going back to a hospital. At checkout, the cashier scanned my items without speaking. Then looked up and said, they used to put the hearts in dolls. I froze. What? She blinked. Sorry, you just said it. I didn't say anything. I backed away, left the items, ran home. Back inside, I locked the door, pulled off my shirt. Another bruise had formed dead center on my chest. Not a circle, a line, vertical, and slowly opening. Like a zipper. My skin had formed a seam. Thin, damp, slightly parted. I leaned in, listened, heard nothing. No beat, no breath, just whispering. Not in language, not quite. Just a wet, repetitive sound like lips forming shapes beneath water. I ran to my desk, opened the GoPro footage again, skipped ahead to last night. 3:13 a.m. My body sat up in bed, then stood, walked to the mirror, watched myself or something in me, pressed both hands to the glass, and then it whispered, clearer than before. Not my voice, but using it. It said, "He walked too far. He listened too long. Now his rhythm is ours." Then I turned to the camera, held up my hand again, and drew something in the air, a spiral. I paused the video, stared at the frame, zoomed in. The spiral had layers. It wasn't flat. The shape descended. The more I looked, the more I felt like it was drawing my mind inward, like an optical trap. I slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding, not in my chest, in my legs, in my back. Then my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. I answered, static, then a voice, Ava's, but distorted, slowed down, like it had been run through machinery. The first host went deeper. "If you want to stop the install, find what's left of him. Look for the room with no pulse." Click. The call disconnected. The spiral burned in my vision. I sat in the dark, hands shaking, and the last thing I remember that night was the pulse behind my eyes accelerating until everything went white. And in that whiteness, a voice, mine, but after, saying, "The body is just scaffolding. The rhythm is the architecture, and the house is almost done." The phrase stuck with me like a splinter in my brain. Find the room with no pulse. I didn't know what it meant, not exactly, but every part of me understood it wasn't metaphorical. It was specific. Somewhere there was a room, and unlike everywhere else. My apartment, the street, the entire outside world. This room wouldn't vibrate, wouldn't throb, wouldn't whisper a slow mechanical rhythm beneath the walls. It would be still, and that meant it would be safe, or at least out of sync. I started by combing every public housing archive I could find. I searched building permits, fire inspection reports, ghost forums, conspiracy threads. After nearly 10 hours, I found it. 203 Bleakman Street, abandoned unit report. Unexplained utility usage despite sealed lease. Resident listed as deceased. The name of the former tenant stopped me cold. Elijah K. Murray. My name. I dug deeper. The man had died 5 years ago. Cause of death: autonomic cardiac failure. Unknown origin. No funeral record. No obituary. No surviving family. The coroner's report was redacted in all the relevant places. And the only photo attached to the file was blurry, almost like it had been printed from memory. But the figure in the image? It looked like me. Too much like me. I wrote down the address. Took a cab across the city. The driver didn't ask questions. Didn't speak at all. And when I gave the address, he didn't punch it into his GPS. Just nodded once. And started driving. Bleakman Street was lined with boarded windows and rusting fences. Graffiti too old to read. Sidewalks cracked like dried skin. The building at 203 leaned ever so slightly to the left, like it was tired of holding itself together. The front door was nailed shut, so I went around the back. Found a window already shattered. Climbed inside. The apartment was dead quiet. No electricity. No water. But also no sound. None. Not the hum of the city outside. Not the distant buzz of plumbing or wiring. Just nothing. And immediately, I noticed something strange. The beat inside me, the one in my leg, my jaw, my ear, stumbled. It skipped, then slowed, then stopped. My whole body shuddered. Coldness spread through me, like stepping into a vacuum. And for the first time in weeks, I realized I couldn't hear it. The network, the pulse I had gotten used to living with like an invasive roommate, gone. It wasn't dead, just cut off. I was in the eye of the storm, and the silence was deafening. I explored slowly. The walls were damp, wallpaper half peeled, covered in strange, repeated indentations. Tiny spirals, pressed deep into the drywall as if a wet thumb had traced them again and again. There were drawings, too. Charcoal on floorboards, figures with too many limbs, spines twisting like braided rope, and a phrase scratched into the underside of the kitchen sink. Not every host completes. I found the bedroom last. The door had been sealed with duct tape, dozens of overlapping layers. I peeled it off with trembling hands. Opened the door. Inside, nothing but a mattress. No sheets. Just a stained, sunken mattress and a full-length mirror leaning against the far wall. But when I stepped inside, I heard something, not sound. The thought, so sudden and sharp, I staggered back. "You are late." I turned. No one there. But the mirror had changed. It wasn't showing the room anymore. It was showing me, only not me, not present me, but someone else wearing me. He was older, thinner. His skin stretched in places, pulled over sharp ridges that looked almost bone-like, but not quite human. His heartbeat was visible in his throat. And he smiled. Spoke. I didn't hear his voice aloud. I heard it inside. I walked too far. I listened too long. I forgot how to bleed. The mirror flickered. And he was gone, replaced by the reflection of the room again. But now something had appeared behind me. I turned slowly. And on the wall, in black ink. "Do you want to uninstall?" "Yes." I didn't hesitate. I whispered it aloud. "Yes." The room didn't respond, but the floor beneath the mattress groaned, and the wall behind the mirror cracked just once. A fissure ran up its surface, releasing a smell like wet metal and ozone. And then I heard it again. A whisper from the crack. "Bring the other hosts." I left without sleeping, without speaking. The moment I stepped back outside, the pulse returned. Violent, rebounding, like it had been interrupted. And now it was angry. My left leg buckled. My neck seized. My hand slapped the side of my own face, not by choice. My own body was punishing me, correcting me, reminding me that this wasn't over. But now I had a direction. I had the location. And most importantly, I had the question. Not every host completes. So what happens when one fails? I didn't sleep after leaving 203 Bleakman. Couldn't. The second I crossed the threshold back into the outside world, the pulse returned, stronger, faster, angrier. It wasn't just resuming. It was retaliating. My fingers clenched on their own. My jaw clicked shut like a vice, so hard I bit my tongue. The rhythm inside me was no longer content being a passenger. It wanted to drive. But I had something it didn't expect. I had the coordinates. And I had a question I couldn't stop repeating in my head like a shield. What happens to the hosts who fail? The failed hosts. The others. If I could find them, the ones who'd resisted, maybe I could find a way to reverse this. Or at least understand what I was becoming. I posted a thread anonymously online. Has anyone else had their heartbeat relocate? I'm not joking. I haven't felt a chest pulse in weeks. But I feel it in my arms, legs, ears. Behind my eyes. Anyone else like me? Most of the responses were trolls. But a handful? A few were real. One DM stood out. From a user named BlackSignal13. "We hear it too. There's a place where the install failed. Meet us. Tonight. 1 a.m. edge of the old rail yard." Attached was a location pin. I memorized it. Deleted the message. Left my phone behind. Whatever this was, I wasn't bringing anything that could sink. The old rail yard was exactly what it sounded like, forgotten. Rusting tracks overgrown with weeds. Half-demolished signal towers. A smell like scorched copper and dust. And there, near a collapsed train car, I saw them. 3 people. All silent. All standing motionless, but with their eyes on me the moment I appeared. The tallest stepped forward. She had a faint spiral carved into her temple, not tattooed, scarred. "I'm Rachel," she said. "You've been infected about 3 weeks?" I nodded. "Where's your pulse now?" "My thigh. And jaw. One behind my eye, I think." She nodded. "Typical. It's mapping. Rewiring the vessel. Replacing mammalian rhythm with network rhythm." "The network?" I asked. "The hive," she corrected. "That's what they call it." She gestured toward a man sitting in the back, cross-legged on a blanket. He didn't speak. Didn't blink. His head was cocked to the side like he was listening to a song only he could hear. "That's Derek," she said. "He's in full sync." But something went wrong mid-install. He never finished. I watched his hands twitching slowly, constantly, drawing spirals into the air. "But he didn't die?" I asked. "No," she said. "He's still here. Kind of. But the person inside? Gone." She turned back to me. "That's what happens if you resist halfway. You don't reject the install, you stall it. And then you're stuck. Forever." I sat down, tried to breathe through the panic crawling up my throat. Another woman approached, younger, her neck wrapped in copper wire like jewelry. She extended a hand. Her wrist pulsed. But not in time with mine. It was a different rhythm entirely. "You're an anomaly," she said. "We saw your thread. No one posts about this and survives. They find you. Shut you down. But you're still functional." "How?" I asked. Because, she said, smiling grimly, you've been rebooted before. What? She nodded. You didn't start this cycle. You've hosted before. No. I would remember, eh? No, you wouldn't. The reboot wipes memory clean. It's how the hive maintains control. But sometimes memory bleeds through. Like static in the install signal. Rachel stepped back into view. You need to go back to where it began. I did. 203 Bleakman. Rachel shook her head. No. Earlier. What's earlier than the install? She looked at me for a long time. Then said, the invitation. That word slammed through me. And with it a flood of memory. A night. 2 months ago. A strange party in an abandoned art gallery. Ava had invited me. Except, Ava wasn't there. No one I recognized was. Just people standing still, staring at mirrored walls, breathing in unison. And one room in the back, glowing orange, that I never entered. Because something in me said, not yet. I looked up. You've all been there too? The others nodded. We think that's where the hive identifies candidates, Rachel said. It listens. Watches. It doesn't install all at once. It invites you. And once you accept, you start to forget who you were, the girl with the copper wire whispered. I stood up. I want out. You're past that, Rachel said. There's no one install for you. But, she reached into her coat, pulled out a small black object, a pulse monitor. But older. Analog. She clipped it to my finger. The screen lit up. No reading. Just a blank. She adjusted it. Tried again. Still nothing. Rachel frowned. Then turned the device toward me. The screen now displayed. Host, mirrored. Network, active. Install, 87% complete. 87%? I breathed. How do I stop it? She looked at me. Hard. You can't. Not completely. But if you finish the pattern first, you might gain control. What pattern? She handed me a folded paper. Inside, a spiral made of symbols. Not letters, but something close. At the bottom, a phrase written in small, blood-colored ink. When the body becomes house, the house must choose its occupant. The girl with the copper wire leaned in. Find the central mirror. The real one. Before they finish syncing your rhythm. What happens if I don't? They all answered in unison, even Derek, whose voice hadn't spoken in hours. Then you'll just be a heartbeat. Nothing more. The gallery had been empty for years. According to public records, it had been condemned after a fire in 1999. No legal tenants. No utilities. No renovations. But I remembered standing inside it just 2 months ago. I remembered people walking barefoot in slow circles. I remembered breathing in rhythm with strangers, matching their steps without meaning to. I remembered a glow behind a black curtain and the feeling that it wasn't light, but awareness. And I remembered turning around. Leaving. Running. Now I understood what I'd escaped wasn't just a strange party. It was an invitation. And this time I was coming back. I got there just before midnight. The front doors were gone, long since burned or stolen. The interior was colder than it should have been. Not drafty. Not chilled. Just void. As if warmth, light, sound, even gravity felt weaker here. I stepped over shattered tile and blackened wood. Every surface bore the same familiar marks, spirals, patterns, fingerprints pressed too deep. The further I walked, the slower my body moved. Not because of fatigue. Because the pulse was thick here. It wasn't a heartbeat anymore. It was an environment. Like air pressure. Like time. Like I was breathing someone else's rhythm. I found the black curtain in the back. Exactly where it had been months ago. Still hanging, still rippling slightly, but without wind. As I reached out to touch it, the pulse in my fingertips reversed. Thump, thump. Became. Thump back. Like it wasn't pumping blood out, but drawing something in. I stepped through the curtain. And froze. It was a room of mirrors. But none of them reflected me. They showed people. Places. Moments I didn't recognize. A hospital room with flickering lights. A stairwell filled with ankle-deep water. A child standing motionless in an elevator, humming a song I somehow knew but had never heard. Each mirror pulsed slightly, like lungs inhaling light. And then I saw the center one. Taller than the rest. Framed in copper and bone. And this one did show me. But not as I was. The figure in the mirror had no face. Not blank, just open. A shifting surface of skin and light rippling like a disturbed pond. Inside the head, barely visible, a heartbeat not in the chest, but in the knees. The palms. The tongue. And the phrase appeared across the glass. Complete the pattern to claim the frame. I remembered the paper Rachel had given me. Pulled it from my pocket. Unfolded the spiral of symbols. It matched a layout on the floor, faint, chalk-like grooves. I walked the pattern barefoot.
1 step per beat, and with each one, the mirrors began to sync. Their pulses aligned. The reflections started to merge. The child from the elevator blinked into the hospital. The stairwell bled into a kitchen. And then they all showed me. At different ages, different injuries, different bodies, but always with the same change. The heart was missing, moved, rewritten, and in the center, my current self. Staring, waiting. I placed my palm on the central mirror. It was warm. The heartbeat returned to my chest just for a moment. Sharp, panicked, alive, and then it vanished again. The mirror melted inward, and the figure stepped out. It wore my face, my exact face. But it wasn't breathing. It smiled, and when it opened its mouth, a voice, dozens layered together, whispered, "You've been a good house." It reached toward me. I staggered back. "You're not real." It tilted its head. "We are. You just forgot." Its fingers touched my chest, and I felt it. The original heartbeat. Not mine, but the first. The one that all of this was based on. The source of the rhythm. The seed of the network. "You're not stealing my body," I said. It smiled again. "No, you're offering it. The install only finishes with consent." I never consented. "You did," it said, then tapped my forehead. "In the gallery. In the breath. In the step. You matched our rhythm. You let us in." The lights flickered. The pulse accelerated. The mirrors fractured, not physically, but reflected reality twisted at the edges. I could feel the frame inside me hardening. Skin becoming scaffolding. Joints becoming hinges. The house was almost ready. But then something broke the sync. A new rhythm. Far away. From behind me. Another heartbeat. Real. I turned. In the doorway stood Ava. Her eyes clear. No spiral. No glitch. Just her. She held a piece of glass, a mirror shard, in her hand. "You invited me too," she said. Then she threw it. The shard pierced the floor. The rhythm shattered. Every mirror went black. The figure in front of me collapsed inward. Like a building imploding. And for the first time in days, I felt silence. Real silence. Inside. I looked at Ava. "You stopped it." She shook her head. "No. I just paused it." "You're not one of them?" "I was," she said. "But I got out." "Barely. The only way to stop the install is to override the pattern." "With what?" She looked at me. Then said, "Your own." Ava and I stood in the ruined gallery, surrounded by dead mirrors. The silence felt thick, as if the hive's absence still pressed against the air like phantom pressure. My pulse was still wrong. I felt it behind my knees now, fluttering like wings trying to escape skin. But Ava's presence cut through the distortion. She walked up, gently took my wrist. "Feel it?" she asked. I shook my head. "Try again." She pressed her fingers just above my vein. I closed my eyes. At first, nothing. Then faintly, another beat. Not the hives, not that slow, mechanical throb that made my bones ring. This one was fragile. Asymmetric. Human. Mine. My original rhythm buried under the network's architecture like a basement foundation under a skyscraper. "It's still in you," she said. "But you have to make it louder than them." "How?" I asked. "Reroute your sync." "Explain." Ava took a breath. When the hive enters a host, it creates mirror points. Places where it builds new rhythm centers. They're usually around soft vascular junctions, throat, wrists, knees, jaw, spine. That's why your heartbeat keeps moving. I nodded. They convert those points into stations, she continued. Signal boosters for the collective. But if you start asserting your own pattern through them, you interrupt the install. Yes, but it's dangerous. Why? Because once they know you're resisting, they accelerate the takeover. And if they fail? She looked away. They collapse the frame. The frame? I asked. You. Back at my apartment, I mapped the mirror points Ava mentioned, where I'd felt pulses the strongest. Thigh. Jaw. Behind the eyes. Nape of neck. Then Ava gave me an object, a tuning fork. That's 76 BPM. A human resting rhythm. Strike it. Press it to each point. Let your body remember. I did as she said. One by one. Every time the fork touched a spot, pain exploded like fire under the skin. But with it, memory. Images. Me as a child falling off a swing, hearing my heart hammer in my ears. Me laughing on a rooftop at dawn, breath syncing with someone else's. Me running from a thunderstorm, each footstep matching the thunder. Every memory that pulsed with emotion, with movement, came back. And behind them, the hive's rhythm recoiled. At the third mirror point, my wrist, something ruptured. A deep crack like snapping ice. A hot rush surged through my arm. I screamed. Blood didn't come out. Something else did. Ink. Dark, shimmering.
thick like oil. It slid across the floor and hissed as it touched the walls. Ava grabbed my arm, wrapped it tight. They're trying to backflow. You're hurting the signal. Is that good? Yes, she said. It means they're scared. That night, I dreamed of the hive. Not metaphorically, I saw it. A vast network of suspended bodies in a black void, tethered by cords of light and rhythm. They twitched in harmony. Their hearts were visible outside their chests, pulsing like exposed engines. One turned to look at me. Its face was mine, but with no eyes, no mouth, no features. Just a spiral. It pointed at me. You broke the rhythm. Then all the bodies twisted. Their chests opened, and they screamed without sound. I woke up choking, my mouth full of something sharp, ran to the sink, spat into the basin. Glass. Tiny shards. Tasted like blood and mirror. Ava watched from the doorway. They're leaking into you, she said, trying to confuse your sense of self. Why? Because they can't overwrite someone who knows who they are. That night, we created a loop. A new rhythm, mine. I recorded my natural heartbeat, layered it over binaural frequencies, played it on a loop while I slept. And I dreamed again. Not of the hive this time, but of a door. In a white corridor. Behind it, my heartbeat. Real. Raw. Loud. And just before I reached it, I saw something horrifying. Me. Already inside. Pacing. Smiling. Waiting. In the mirror of the corridor wall, I watched my double stop walking. He looked at me, lifted his shirt, and carved the words into his own chest with a mirror shard. If you're still asking who you are, it's already too late. I woke up gasping, but this time my pulse was in my chest. Thudding. Not hard. Not fast. But mine. Ava checked it with her fingers. Nodded once. You've started the override. Will it last? She didn't answer. Just handed me another folded paper. Another spiral. But this one wasn't a symbol chart. It was a map of where they began. Where the first Elijah was found. Where the first install succeeded. And where the hive built its central heart. She looked me in the eyes. You want this to end? Yes. Then it's time to visit the core. The address on the spiral map Ava gave me wasn't listed on any GPS. It led to an industrial zone on the outskirts of the city, a condemned biotech facility surrounded by rusted fences and sinkholes where trees used to grow. According to what little I could find online, the company had gone bankrupt decades ago after a failed experiment involving cardiac rhythm modulation therapy. But there were no records of what the therapy actually was. Only one detail remained. Project Pulsar suspended indefinitely due to fatal synchronization errors. That was the hive's origin. And it was still breathing. We got in through a cracked loading bay, stepping over shattered glass and scorched circuit panels. Every step closer to the building's center made my own rhythm stutter. My chest beat strong, but the old pulse, the hive pulse, whispered under it like a forgotten song trying to harmonize again. Ava carried the tuning fork and one more tool, a short metal rod, sharp at the end. I didn't ask what it was for. Part of me already knew. The facility's basement looked like an abandoned morgue. Filing cabinets lined the walls. Ceiling lights flickered in slow, sick pulses mimicking a heartbeat that didn't belong to the living. We passed doors labeled vascular override, rhythm implantation, autonomic mapping, host nullification. None of them opened. All sealed, until we reached the final door at the very end of the hall. Core/reflective vessel. It opened before we touched it. Inside, a room lined with mirrors. No lights, yet everything was visible. Lit by pulse. The walls throbbed faintly. In the center, a vat. Suspended in fluid was a human body. Tubes connected its limbs. Its face was identical to mine, only aged like it had been floating here for years. And on its chest, embedded into skin, a visible heart, still beating, outside the body, not inside, just under the skin like an insect caught in jelly. Ava stepped closer. This is it, she whispered. The source frame. What happens if we stop it? She didn't answer right away. Then, you won't be able to go back. Back where? To being only one thing. I moved closer. The figure in the vat opened its eyes. No iris. Just spirals. It looked directly at me. And smiled. Then its mouth opened. No air, no sound, just vibration. A frequency that entered me. I dropped to my knees. Heard the voice in my blood. You are the last echo. The rhythm has moved through many houses. You are our best frame yet. No, I gasped. I'm not yours. You invited us. You aligned. You let the mirrors in. Ava pressed the tuning fork to the glass. The body in the vat twitched. Its rhythm glitched, fluttered.
I pushed myself up, tore the spiral map in half. No more mirrors, I said, and placed my hand on the tank. The heartbeat inside the source frame slowed, matched mine, then hesitated. If you kill this body, the voice warned, you orphan the network. I'd rather be an orphan than a house. I took the metal rod from Ava. She didn't stop me. I pressed the sharp end to the source frame's heart. Its eyes widened. Then its mouth formed one final shape. Welcome to the void. I drove the rod in. There was no blood, just light. The room screamed. Every mirror cracked. The pulse vanished from the walls, from the air, from me. And I collapsed. For minutes or maybe hours, everything was white. Not unconsciousness. Just reset. And when sensation returned, I felt it. In my chest. One clean, human heartbeat. Just one. Mine. Ava pulled me to my feet. The source frame was gone. The vat was empty. No more lights. No more vibration. Just silence. She touched my neck, checked my pulse, smiled. You did it. We left through the back exit. No alarms. No guards. No hive. And as we walked into the cold dawn air, I asked the question I hadn't dared ask until now. Am I me again? Ava was quiet. Then she looked at me with something like sadness. You're more than you were. But you're not just you. Because somewhere, in another building, another city, another person was feeling a pulse move from their foot to their wrist, and hearing whispers that didn't have a mouth, and walking toward a mirror that wasn't theirs. The hive was gone from me, but not from the world. It's been 73 days since I killed the source frame, since I drove that rod into the heart that never belonged in a chest, since I became more than myself. Every day since, I've woken up with a pulse in my chest. Mine. But there are other days, fewer now, when I feel a second one. Lower. Slower. A throb in my heel or my shoulder blade or the base of my skull. Those days I avoid mirrors. Not because I'm afraid of what I'll see, but because I'm afraid they'll see me back. Ava disappeared 2 weeks after we left the core. No note. No goodbye. Just a voicemail I never noticed until it played on its own at 3:13 a.m. Her voice sounded frayed, distant. They'll rebuild. The rhythm isn't a system. It's a pattern. Patterns spread. You stopped your install. But the network wasn't centralized. It was rooted. And roots grow back. Goodbye, Elijah. I moved cities. Burned my clothes. Changed my name. I live in a studio with no windows and no reflective surfaces. The mirrors are covered. The walls are painted matte black. No lights stronger than 60 watts. No clocks with second hands. Nothing that can create sync. And I don't listen to music anymore. Not because I don't want to, but because I can't risk aligning with something I can't feel fully. I can't let rhythm take hold again. But last night, the floor beneath my bed clicked. Not creaked. Clicked. Like a lock disengaging. I looked down and saw a small line in the wood I'd never noticed before. It wasn't there yesterday. A thin black seam. A trapdoor. I haven't opened it yet, but I know what's under it. Not physically, not with logic. With rhythm. I can feel it faint just beneath perception. Not a heartbeat. Not yet. But the invitation is returning. And the first beat is always quiet. They're patient. They wait. Because they know. The body is a house. And every house eventually develops a hollow room. You'll feel it too, maybe. One day. Your pulse will move. Just an inch. Just enough to make you doubt. And when it does, don't follow it. Don't listen to mirrors. Don't walk the spiral. Because if you do, you'll never be just you again. You'll be part of something bigger. Older. Hungrier. And when your chest goes still and your heartbeat starts in your ankle or your eye, it's already too late.